This weekend, Van Jones was on CNN, and Van Jones was asked the question, did the president know who you were before you arrived?
I was fully candid. About my past, about the ideas that I have explored. I was a mid-level White House staffer. I reported to a Senate-confirmed nominee. Mid-level White House staffers go through a vetting process. It's a process that's very, very rigorous. But I wasn't a cabinet secretary. I was a worker in the White House. Some people decided to give me this crazy title of Green Jobs Czar in the media.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you remember this. I came right out and said, I'm not the Green Jobs Czar. I'm the Green Jobs handyman.
So, they knew exactly who he was. Well, I'm sorry. If I have somebody who is a Marxist revolutionary who's standing up and saying that, Mumia Abu-Jamal was right for blowing the head off of Danny Faulkner, a cop, I don't think I have him even emptying the garbage in the White House. If I have somebody who appears to be, although we can't ever trace anything down because people just don't seem to have the courage of their convictions. They just don't want to say these things out loud. But we're pretty sure that Van Jones was a member of STORM, which was a radical communist revolutionary front. We're pretty sure he wrote the book on STORM, but we can't confirm it. It's like the Invisible Committee, the communists that are writing books over in Europe. They tend to stay undercover. Why? Because that way they can hold their powerful positions and remain unseen and unknown. But with the resources of the White House, you'd think that they would be able to find all the things out that we have found out about Van Jones, and it would give you pause. Now, did you notice that he said, they knew everything and all of my positions that I have explored? No one will ask him if he is still a communist. No one will ask him if he has rejected communism and rejected Marxism. If he now believes in the free market system, because he has said in the past that the free market system doesn't work. His joke was, how's that capitalism working for you, huh? How's that capitalism working for you? But then as the green jobs, I'm sorry, it wasn't the...
Ho, ho, ho. Green jobs work.
We had to correct it. It was...
Ho, ho, ho.
Special advisor for green jobs at the White House Council on Environmental Quality.
Okay, that's what he was. So, as he's the green jobs special advisor to the whatever, he says, we're going to go away from this capitalism thing. I don't want to quote him and get him wrong, so I'll let him actually say the words himself.
One of the things that has happened, I think, too often to progressives is that we don't understand the relationship between minimum goals and maximum goals. Right after Rosa Parks refused to give up her seat, if the civil rights leaders had jumped out and said, okay, now we want reparations for slavery, we want redistribution of all wealth, and we want to legalize mixed marriages. If that had been they had come out with a maximum program the very next day, they'd have been laughed at. Instead, they came out with a very minimum program. We just want to integrate these buses. The students, a few years later, came out with a very minimum program. We just want to sit at the lunch counter. But inside that minimum demand was a very radical kernel that eventually meant that from 1954 to 1968, complete revolution was on the table for this country. And I think that this green movement has to pursue those same steps and stages. Right now, we're saying we want to move from suicidal gray capitalism to some kind of eco-capitalism where, at least we're not, fast-tracking the destruction of the whole planet. Will that be enough? No, it won't be enough. We want to go beyond systems of exploitation and oppression altogether, but that's a process.
Okay. So there is the extreme goal. So the question is, to the President of the United States, again, the same question. I have no problem with Van Jones, never have had any problems with Van Jones. I love you. Let's send Valentine's cards to each other. My issue, my problem is not with Van Jones. I know who Van Jones is. Case closed. Again, the dialogue needs to happen with the President of the United States. Play the CNN cut again. Did the White House know who you were?
You got to go back to it.
Oh, jeez, for love. What kind of audio vault do you have? What kind of
one where you have to switch back and forth?
I was fully candid. About my past, about the ideas that I have explored.
Stop. He was fully candid. So there are no more questions for Van Jones. The question remains again at the White House. Now it was speculation on my part. I said, how is it that we can find these things out, but the White House cannot? I speculated based on Valerie Jarrett that she knew because she introduced him and she said we've been following him since his days in Oakland, California. That's when he was a radical. She spoke of him in high praise and lofty tones when she talked about his time in Oakland, California. So I was pretty sure, but now we have no speculation. Now we have verification. So we're done with Van Jones. Because now we have verification. The White House knew. They knew exactly who he was. So the question now needs to be asked of the President of the United States. You knew he was a radical. You knew that he was a Marxist. You knew that he was an avowed communist. You knew he was a man who called for revolution. You knew that he was a man who called for these things and then, in his own words, found the Green Movement and knew that that was the way to accomplish his communist goals. You knew that he was standing up for a cop killer, Mumia Abu-Jamal, who killed a cop at point-blank range by shooting them in the head. Danny Faulkner is his name. You knew these things, Mr. President. According to your ally and your friend, and one of the most important people in American history, a national treasure, according to the NAACP. You knew these things. Is that who you are? Do you agree with those things? You won't talk to Tea Party goers. You dismiss them as kooks and crackpots, and they have nothing to say to you. But people who are avowed communists, back cop killers, call for revolution, say that the Green Job program is a cloak for a real radical end. What is your radical end, Mr. President? We know now what Van Jones' radical end is. What is yours? Do not be distracted by Van Jones. This is not the target, nor has it ever been the target of inquiry. The target of inquiry is President Obama. Period.